Torrential rain has arrived at Valderrama. Padraig Harrington is now 5 over par, 11 shots off the lead in the second round of the Volvo Masters.
BBC Radio Manchester, satellite weather with Diane Oxbury.
There's a good deal of winter sunshine around there, but there are also one or two wintry showers. Closer to the Pennines you are, the greater your risk is of seeing one or two of those. Elsewhere, decent spells of sunshine, but this day really will not warm up. We've got a really chilly north to northeasterly breeze, so your top temperature is 8 Celsius.
Lunchtimes belong to Beswick.
Allan Beswick.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Hello, how are you? I hope you are well. I hope your day is being warm and cherished. I hope you're having a wonderful... Listen, I'm taking no chances. £1.5 million, they fine me, that. God bless and save us. I'd be up a creek without a paddle. I'm too polite to say which particular creek I have in mind. And you, of course, are too polite to imagine it for yourself. Anyway, how are you doing? You all right? No, it's not funny. It's not funny. Stop it, Beswick. It's not funny. Yeah, I'll tell you what is funny. I was on my way to the canteen this morning, and I bumped into a lady, and I was my normal cheery self, happy-go-lucky guy that I am. And she said, "You're very cheerful." And I said, "Well, I always am." And she said, "I know." "Why is that?" she said. I said, "I think it's 'cause I'm balmy and I don't really know the terrible things that are happening all over the place." And she said, "Fine." I said, "But you're remarkably cheerful too." She said, "Yes, I am. But I'm not normally as cheerful as this." And this is all true, by the way. And I said to her, "Why are you cheerful this morning?" She said, "Well, I think when I was on the bus, the bloke next to me was using cannabis. And I think I've got a whiff of it." Now, I don't know whether she was taking a mickey out of me or what, but I thought it was funny nonetheless. So thank you for that. It brightened my morning even further. Anyway, telephone number today, 0161 228 2255. Email address, usual one, radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk. Text number 07786 206 951. So what subjects are we going to talk about today? Well, frankly, I haven't a clue. I never do. I do sometimes blather. One does blather from time to time. And I do blather. And I blather about whatever's entered me head the second before I open the microphone. Indeed, often the second afterwards. It's that scary. But I never know what you're going to talk about. And frankly, why should I? It's up to you. So whatever's bothering you, or indeed whatever you want to talk about, I don't mind. You can talk about last week's washing if you want. Well, yeah, you can. No, in truth you can, because I wouldn't know till you were here. What we'd say about it, well, heaven alone knows. I did like one story in the paper this morning, and I'm to congratulate the police on this occasion. The police are investigating a case where one neighbour, a young 15-year-old boy, referred to his emerald next-door neighbour as an effing Irish leprechaun. And the police are investigating it, and I think quite right too. There's too much tautology in the world. Well, let's face it, how many English leprechauns are there, or Chinese leprechauns, or, I don't know, there are only Irish leprechauns, so therefore the phrase is a tautology, and it's about time the police began to intervene on grammar. Alex in Bury, hiya.
Afternoon, Alan.
Good afternoon, sir.
I spoke to you yesterday regarding the offensive comedy.
You did?
And I'd just like to, first of all, finish on that point and then talk about what I think is going to be the self-censorship within comedy on the BBC.
Go on.
Okay, so you were saying that you did a radio show for Radio 4 regarding offensive comedians.
I did.
I just wonder, in your research, did you come across a joke known as the aristocrats?
No, I don't think I came across it then, and I'm beginning to hesitate whether I should proceed.
No, I'm not going to repeat it on there, but
no, I didn't.
It's got a reputation for being the rudest joke ever.
Okay.
And a documentary film was actually made of it about 2 years ago with various comedians from around the world, Whoopi Goldberg, Billy Connolly, and again, I was about to say, some people find that very offensive, and I just want to make the point further that there is actually a tradition of offensive comedy. Going back, offensive comedy or offensive satire, you can go back to the 19th century, to the cartoons of Hogarth, who, if you're familiar with him, and I'm sure you are.
I'm extremely familiar with him for reasons that are too boring to say.
Okay, well, you'll know that, he was very rude to members of the royal family, prime ministers and leading politicians of the day. And if your listeners want to go and check out Hogarth, they'll see that, his cartoons, his satirical cartoons were very, very rude or offensive to some. Again, and I'd even say satirists and cartoonists have a duty to be rude to leading figures within politics and so on. And again, similarly, cartoons that appeared in Punch as well were equally as scathing. So, as I said, for people who think comedy and satire has just coarsened over the last couple of decades, then obviously they don't know the history.
Well, okay, and you're absolutely right. And Hogarth, Gin Lane, and the I've forgotten now, the Rake's Progress, and all those things. I even have some of his etchings, would you believe? But nonetheless, those are things that one chooses to access, if you like. Almost like pornography on the internet. It doesn't just fall in your lap, as it were. You have to go and look for it, which you're entitled to do as far as I'm concerned. What we're talking about in terms of what happened with Brandon Ross was a level of ribaldry, if you like, that the audience was not prepared for. Now, they may well be prepared to accept it, and if those two fellows had just told a very, very filthy joke, it wouldn't have gone as far as it is. I think the problem with this particular thing, and even Chris Evans on television last night, a lad who knows a bit about ribaldry, even Chris Evans said the gag, if you like, the ringing Andrew Sachs and doing that to him was unacceptable. Not because it was unacceptable to ring up a celebrity and give him a bad time. Maybe that is, I don't know. But ring up a celebrity and leave a message about not him is probably too far. Even if... I don't think Manning would have done that. I don't think Roy Chubby Brown would have done that.
Are you still there, Alan?
Yes, I am. I'm just saying, I think your defence of offensive comedy, I'm with you every step of the way, and I've more than once defended comedians' rights to stand on a stage and say whatever the hell they like. But to do what these two did is not just about the comedy of it. It's not just about the offensiveness of it. It's about the, well, frankly, in many people's view, the bullying of it, but in my view, to a certain extent, the cowardice of it.
And as I said before, I don't condone... No. I didn't think it was particularly funny, to be honest. It wasn't, and it was insulting. But I want to take it a step further, if I may.
Please do.
I mean, there's a couple of things, and I hate to say I told you so, but I think I've been proven right, because there's a comedian known as Frankie Boyle who appears on Mock the Week.
You're on about the Queen's joke now.
Yes, and I did actually... I caught it myself. I caught the repeats the other day. Was it particularly funny? I'll let others decide. Is Frankie Boyle funny? I think so. Is he near the knuckle? Almost certainly all the time. And, that's Frankie Boyle. But what I'd like to say is this, I have to... it's not necessarily a rhetorical question, but who is the national arbiter of taste and morality? Because it definitely isn't me. I'm certain it's not you, and it sure as hell isn't Melanie Phillips and the Daily Mail. You just cannot avoid, offending some section of society. And if I just take it... I make the final point.
Yep.
I think what you will find is comedy shows like Never Mind the Buzzcocks, Mock the Week, and Have I Got News for You? You'll find that they will increasingly self-censor themselves, and I think comedy on the BBC will be the poorer for it.
I disagree.
Okay, that's fair enough.
And on the basis of we neither of us can be right or wrong, we'll have to wait and see what the future holds. But frankly, I think this is more than a storm in a teacup, but it's a one-off. The BBC has, all large organisations have these one-offs from time to time. I think it is unique in that it overstepped today's boundary. And you are possibly right in that the boundary will be moved, if you like, a little further in. But it will expand again. If we imagine it as a balloon, this went beyond the balloon and burst it. But the balloon will be reinflated. It'll be a little bit for a while, a little bit less inflated, and then it'll slowly grow again, and the boundary will move on. Because it does. Because we are part of the cultural identity of, by we I mean the BBC, but the BBC is part of the cultural identity of this country, and the cultural identity of this country is changing slowly all the time. It evolves.
Alan, can I make a final point?
The evolution hasn't ended. Go on, please do.
Am I right in saying that the government took off the statute book some years ago, indecency laws, because they found that nobody was getting prosecuted for indecency, and what was deemed indecent when that law actually was put on the statute book is no longer indecent or considered indecent. And I think this just highlights the point. What is indecent? What is in bad taste? What is unfunny? What is cruel comedy? You know, you can ask 6 million people, you get 6 million different points of view, and you know, who decides what is and what isn't in bad taste? Now, the BBC have people who have to judge that, and that's their job, but you know, there's probably a proportion of society or licence fee payers who disagree with the actions of the BBC this week.
You may be right, and one or two have expressed it. Alex, always a pleasure.
No problem.
Have a good day. 0161 228 2255. Will be some time before we get completely away from the Ross and Brand affair. But look at it like this. There are three major people involved in this, and I'm not diminishing the producers and all the rest of it, but there are three names. The programme controller of Radio 2 has gone because the public statement is, and I know of no other, the public statement is, her phrase was, "It happened on my watch, I carry the can, I'm gone." Rather like, and there's some honour to be witnessed and applauded there, rather like the John Carrington, the Foreign Secretary, when the Falklands were invaded by the Argentinians. It was nothing to do with him. He wasn't Foreign Secretary, I think he was Defence Secretary, but it doesn't matter. It was nothing to do with him, but he said, "It's happened on my watch, and honour says I go." The head of Radio 2 has done the same. The Russell Brand character, well, he messed about for a week or so, but eventually gave an extraordinarily open apology and said, "I don't want to do the BBC any more harm, I'm gone." Jonathan Ross has not gone. He's lost a lot of money, but he's also got 3 months off without pay. Now, if I got 3 months off without pay, I'd have to sit at home sulking. But he is, because of the money they've given him from the BBC, a very, very wealthy man. I suspect a large proportion of his 3 months will be spent, well, living the life. I'm sure he'll have a lovely holiday, because he won't be working at all. Because apparently, according to the newspapers, I only have access to the same information as you, and the newspapers this morning are saying that his contract doesn't allow him to work for anyone else. So his 3 months off are off, full stop. Although I do think he'll have a book tour. Bill in Bolton, hi.
Hello, Alan.
What have you got?
Yeah, it's much the same debate. I thought you rather hit the nail on the head yesterday when you finally addressed, yourself, I think it was, the fact of something illegal taking place rather than a matter of taste and decency. I think the two issues are getting, shall we say, confused or whatever in all this. Now, just as a way of trying to put myself into some context, I'm no goody two-shoes. I spent the best part of my working life in a male-dominated environment, so I know what black humour is and lewd humour, and I fully participated at certain occasions. Now, on the same, by the same token, Roy Chubby Brown, his humour does not appeal to me. I think it is totally offensive. I think it's cretinous. I can't imagine what people find funny in him. I think they're equally cretinous. And I think the people who actually allow his act to be put on in a public place for which I pay my rates are equally so. I have to call their judgment into question. But that is my personal prejudice. That is the prejudice of a grumpy 60-year-old. Now, if I were to... The question... I think the nub of my question is, if I worked for a company, let's call it the Allan Beswick Nuts and Bolts Company, and I used the facilities provided by that company to, say, a phone, to abuse verbally a member of the public, could I not reasonably expect the police to be knocking on my door and to have be summarily dismissed?
OK, well, hold that thought, Bill, because I'm going to interrupt you for the news headlines and stuff, so we do them on time.
OK.
First time ever, because it's Kevin today, and he's a very short fuse, and he's a rugby player. Anyway, so I'll do the headlines, and I'll come back to you. But would you meet prosecution? Should you expect the cops knocking at your door? That's an easy one to answer, surprisingly. It's 12:20 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines, as I said, Kevin Fitzpatrick.
Greater Manchester's council leaders have approved changes to the plan for a congestion charge and public transport improvements in our area. They've also agreed that the question on the referendum will be, do you agree with the Transport Innovation Fund proposals, yes or no? There'll be 500 jobs if the Royal Opera and the Royal Ballet create a base in Manchester. That's according to the leader of Manchester City Council, who's backing the proposal, which would see them move into the Palace Theatre. And Take That have announced 2 more dates on next year's tour after huge demand for tickets this morning. They're in Glasgow on June the 19th and at the Old Trafford Cricket Ground on June the 24th. 300,000 tickets were sold in less than an hour. The weather dry and bright today, but feeling chilly with highs of 8 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Getting back to normal now on the M60 around Sinister Island after the accident earlier on. The M62 also easing on approach to that junction. The M60 around Denton Island, though, do watch out for a lane closure on the exit slip road to the Denton Island with a broken down lorry there from the anti-clockwise side. Traffic does seem to be getting past without too much of an issue, but just to be aware that there is a lane closed on that exit slip. The M6, though, southbound is very slow at the moment. Junction 20 at Lymm towards junction 19 at Knutsford. Not too bad on the northbound track. If you do spot any problems, call in on 01612 244 4951. I'm David Powell.
Decongesting Manchester, one car at a time. 2020 traffic.
BBC Radio Manchester.
We're back with Bill in Bolton. Bill, you asked a question.
Hi, Alan.
If you made an offensive, bullying, whatever kind of phone call from your place of work, could the police be involved and could you expect a knock at the door? Well, I suppose the simple answer to that is, could you? Yes, of course you could. It's slightly different in the case that we're referring to, and that is that in order for a criminal conviction to be acquired, if you like, for somebody to be convicted of a criminal offence, other than motoring, it is for the prosecution to prove intent. Now, there's no doubt that Ross and t'other fella intended to make the phone call. But did they intend to offend? Well, even that we might argue yes. But their prime motivation, which in most people's opinion failed, but nonetheless, their prime motivation was comedy. And comedy, even bad comedy, is not a criminal offence. So if they were brought to court, they won't be. If they were brought to court, they would plead not guilty, and they would leave it to the prosecution to convince the inquiry, be it a jury or indeed magistrates, that they intended to hurt, and that would fail. So that's the answer to your question. It's a somewhat pedantic answer, but that's why it is.
Yeah, I follow what you're saying there, yeah. I find it a lot of hypocrisy coming out of the coroners on this issue. I had somebody on yesterday, I think a spokesperson for the spokesman, actually, for the BBC, appearing to sort of bend over backwards to... Now, this is, again, back to a matter of taste, trying to defend Russell Brand's humour on the grounds that this is what the kids want, you know, and in the same stroke, thereby defending what he or appearing to defend what they had actually done on the phone.
Well, no, you can say that the brand of humour that the brand of humour that Russell Brand perpetrates is very popular amongst a younger audience. I can evidence this personally by telling you that my niece, my wife's niece in truth, but my niece, a very intelligent young girl, is absolutely in love with him. So much so that I was dropping her off at the station and she said, can we go by the BBC and I can have a look at the studio he sometimes works from. That's how bad it can get.
Yeah.
Also, he fills theatres up and down the land, but you can say, yes, this is the kind of man we want, the kind of comedy we want, but on this occasion, on this one occasion, he went too far.
Yeah.
You can say that's perfectly legitimate. I've had it said about me.
Yeah. Yeah, my missus can't understand why I like Monty Python. I think it's absolutely hilarious.
Well, I have to tell you that Monty Python got more complaints, not just me, Monty Python got more complaints for their style of humour and some... Well, remember The Life of Brian? There are still... I tell a lie because it changed just a few weeks ago, but a tiny village, a tiny town in Wales that banned The Life of Brian because it was considered far too offensive to the fire and brimstone town in Wales, and it was only shown there for the first time about a month ago. It's 20 years old, for crying out loud.
I know. Well,
so they've all been there.
I was brought up a good Catholic lad, and I found that hilarious as well.
Well, that's neither here nor there, but I promise you there was a queue of preachers a mile long wanting to burn down the cinema.
Can I just, as a little aside...
very quick, go on.
Was it the poetess Wendy Cope? Have you heard of her?
With the poet,
there was a story, there was a story, and I don't know if I got it right. Her work was banned from school, or at school, or some schools, on the grounds that it was too violent.
Indeed, I think it was Wendy Cope, yes.
Yeah, now I don't know the work in question, but I wonder if any of those teachers or parents who objected to her work have ever read the Bible or Shakespeare. Or in fact, what about those people who get their rocks off dressing kids in military uniform?
Indeed. Oh, you mean the Scouts?
Well, no, I mean cadets and stuff like that.
Indeed so. Well, it's a funny world. Good on you, Bill. Have a good day, mate. 0161 228 2255. You got something to say? Manchester would love to hear it, I'm sure. And frankly, so would I. 0161 228 2255. You can email Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk and the text number is 07786 206 951. And you can talk about anything. You don't have to talk about the two clowns. Richie in Liverpool, hiya.
How are you doing, Alan?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. I'm glad you said that. We can talk about anything. We don't have to talk about the saga with Ross and Brand. But I did ring up on that point, and I was just it was a bit of light-hearted humour, actually. First of all, I don't want to take up much of your time, but I will say that Brand doesn't appear to me at all. It's a waste of TV space and time. I do like Jonathan Ross, I have to say. As for his granddaughter, but at the end of the day, she was sleeping with the guy, allegedly. So,
well, she's admitted that she did, but
go on.
No, that's all. I'm just...
Well, maybe Andrew Sachs should complain to her about her conduct. Anyway, but we're all forgetting one thing. Andrew Sachs used to get abused physically and mentally all the time by John Cleese in Fawlty Towers. He never complained then, did he?
Well, no, Andrew Sachs didn't get abused by John Cleese.
Basil Fawlty.
Well, Basil Fawlty abused the character. It was a piece of drama. And they were playing characters. But John Cleese, as far as I know, John Cleese didn't abuse him.
No, but
it was just the comedy.
It's all gone a bit too far now. We should close the doors on it and just move on.
Well, indeed. Just before we close the door and move on, seeing as how we've broached the subject, do you think the action that has happened rather than being taken, because a couple of them have resigned, whether they were pushed or not, I've no idea, but do you think as we close the door we can say, OK, it happened, it was possibly wrong, it has been resolved? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think Mr. Ross got off very, very lightly, but I think we all knew that he would, and there'd be other heads that would roll rather than his, because he's the one that gets the viewing figures, not the people behind the scenes. And I just think that's just the way life goes at times. I think we should accept it and just move on, because we're all too busy, and believe you me, the British public, I think, Alan, forget so quickly. And when Mr. Ross is back on TV, I can guarantee this will not get mentioned.
Well, no one will mention it. Whether indeed he will be somewhat chastened. It will be interesting to see, given that we've been told that this is his final warning, whether it's his first warning or not, I've no idea, but we are told it's his final one. It'll be interesting to see whether he, on his return, uses the F word at all or as liberally as he previously did. It'd be interesting to see whether he returns chastened or indeed takes a step back to where he was a while ago. We shall see.
It won't take long for him to get back to his usual ways.
Well, maybe that's a good thing.
We all forget.
Good to talk to you, mate. 0161 228 2255. Neil in Bevington said, what was the number of that bus the young lady was on that you were talking about? I could do with a good start to the day myself. If you've only just tuned in, on my way to the canteen this morning, I had a conversation with a young woman who was, should we say, in her own words, happier than usual, because she thinks the bloke sat next to her on the bus was using cannabis, and she might have got a whiff. I think it's a fantastic line. Ray in Bellevue. Hiya, Ray.
Hiya, Alan. Nice to speak to you.
And you, sir.
Well, I'm going to inquire of you what you know about China. Now,
China?
The government.
Oh, the China. Sorry, I thought you said Challenger. Go on.
No, China. I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
No, well, you see, we had a discussion a bit ago about China, and you said something about kidneys. Now, you see, I think the extraction of kidneys. Now, the thing is, I don't know as much as you do. I'm not as informed as you on that topic, but no, I do receive a weekly magazine from China, and because the world's changing, and I like to follow developments and everything. But the thing is, I have heard elsewhere on the BBC, it only mentioned once, something about kidneys being taken from people who are not who don't support the government in some way there in China. Could you tell me a bit more about it, please?
Well, I can give you the story that's been bandied about for a number of years. First of all, capital punishment is still used a great deal in the People's Republic of China, and people are executed for things that in this country would not be regarded as crimes. So they execute murderers, they execute rapists, all of that. They're crimes in this country. But they do, according to reports, they execute people who are, well, dissidents, if you like.
Yes.
Well, so that's, if we look at that one rather than all the others. But rather than just execute these people and then throw their bodies in a grave to rot away, the story goes, and there have been a number of documentaries that have attempted to prove this, but the story goes that they then sell the organs of these individuals. They're dead, they don't need them anymore, and they died in trauma, which is what's required for organ donation. And so they take the organs and they give them to, I don't know, the children of leaders who possibly need them, or they sell them. And there's even suggestions that they've been sold on the open market to rich people around the world. So that's the story.
Well, I like to think of myself as a communist, but I can't support in any way behaviour by communists like that. If they call themselves communists, I'm afraid they're not in my eyes.
Well, I mean, if you, and I'm not suggesting that you do, or for that matter don't, but if one supports capital punishment, then surely what's wrong if you say, right, we're going to execute this man, so we execute him, what's wrong with taking his organs to help somebody else?
Well,
at least he's done some good. You're executing him for something horrible. At least he's now done some good, perhaps against his wishes, but done anyway.
Well, being a dissident or being stealing money, it shouldn't carry the death penalty.
Well, indeed.
And it can be used cynically. I mean, a person could be falsely accused of something by somebody just to get out their organs, taking some.
Yes, of course they could. People could be wrongly convicted. They could be convicted of things that you and I think they ought not to be crimes. But what about the principle itself? Not the implementation and the failure to get it right, but what about the principle itself? Here they are, the person is executed. Why not have their organs? They're no good to them.
Well, it's still cynical. I am an organ donor myself. I'm not come on to talk about myself, but no, I think that no, it's all wrong. It's just
okay.
it's a dreadful situation if that's the situation in that country.
All right, mate. Thank you very much indeed. Ray in Bellevue. I'm hoping to improve my knowledge of China in the foreseeable future. In the reasonably soon future, I hope to go there, but possibly more of that later. We'll have to wait and see. I'm still trying to get a visa. Yeah, I wouldn't let me in either, don't you worry. Derek in Wigan. Hiya, Derek.
Hi, Alan. This current Rugby League World Cup that's going on.
Oh, yes, the Barna one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anyone know what the qualifications are for these players who are playing for Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and how they prove it? For example, Richards, who plays for Wigan, is Australian, plays for Ireland. What proof do they have to supply? I understand it's grandparents, but surely they don't take it by word of mouth. Because anybody could say the parents were Irish. Surely they have to provide some documentation. Does anybody know?
I don't know. My fear, whenever we get on to rugby league, my fear is that there's probably nobody knows, because as you well know, rugby league is run by crackpots.
Exactly. That's what I'm asking. That's why I'm coming on.
So I have absolutely no idea. The general rule seems to be that you can earn it by residence. In sports generally, you can earn it by residence. So if you've lived in a place for a given time and, you know, like Zola Bud, if you've lived here for a quarter of an hour and they like the cut of your jib, then you're in. Obviously, if you're born in a country, then you're entitled to it. If you are the descendants of people, and we've had that with a few South Africans, haven't we? One of which became the captain of the England cricket team. So there are probably a variety of ways you can make the grade. In some sports, they're very picky and expect you to provide birth certificates and the rest. But my guess is the rugby league, you know, they just say, hey, where are you, bot? Yeah, that'll do, fine, get your shirt on. But I don't know, that's probably...
Or else, they have a name like Cassidy, they say, well, you must be Irish.
Oh, yeah, Cassidy, that's an Irish name, you'd be all right with that.
You know, or Richards, well, you're Welsh.
Is Richards a Welsh name? I never knew that. But there you are. So certainly, if your name Griffiths, then that's it.
I would have thought that definitely they should have had to provide birth certificates of the grandparents at least.
Okay, well, maybe so. I don't know whether I could get birth certificates of my grandparents. I suppose it must be possible. Well, thank you. Well, when you get them, will you give them me, or did you mean for yours? But
I wonder if anybody knows.
Well, okay, we might find out. We might ask somebody. I'll ask Jack Dearden. He's usually listening. Dearden, if you know the answer to this, come on. If you know, then what you say?
Yeah.
But anyway, the question I'm interested in is, why does it matter to you?
Well, I think it's a bit of a farce. It becomes comical rather than serious. I thought the World Cup was supposed to be serious.
Well, it's only a game.
Well, it's supposed to be a serious game, isn't it?
Well, I'm not sure, you see, because it's like when the Americans call is it baseball they call the World Series?
Yeah.
It's just happened.
Yeah.
There's only them plays it.
Yeah. I mean, if we take Crown Green Bowls, we should call the Waterloo at Blackpool, we should call that the World Crown Green Bowls Championships.
Well, no, we shouldn't.
Because,
no, it's not. Crown Green Bowling it's life or death in Australia.
Oh, that's flat green, isn't it?
No, it's... Well, now you have me at a loss. I thought...
It's flat green there, Alan,
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Well then, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, it would be flat, wouldn't it, in Australia?
Yeah.
Anyway, there we are. I don't know the answer. If anyone does know the answer, I'll be more than happy to hear it. If anyone can get Dearden out of bed, then we'll ask him.
Thanks,
he won't
Alan.
know, but he'll have something interesting to say.
Aye.
Good on you, Derek.
Thanks, Alan.
There's the question. What are the qualifications to play international rugby? For the current rugby league lot, what's the qualification, the international qualification? How do you become justified or entitled to play for England or Ireland or any of those places? What does it have to be? I have no idea. I know one thing, that if they haven't got enough players in any of the countries, then the rugby league will swivel it about until it's organised in such a way they can. Because the rugby league, and you can't blame them for this, but the rugby league managers, the people that run it, the Leeds Wallers, they are doing their level best to make rugby league an international game. Now, they're up against it. They've had a lot of help from Sky, Telly and all the rest of it, but they're up against it. There's something about rugby league that in the United Kingdom, it won't really go outside the M62 border. If you want to be a professional rugby league player in Britain, then you've got to play for a team which, if you stood on the centre spot of their pitch, you can spit onto the M62. If you can't, you won't be playing professional. I know there's a team down south, but frankly, It's like an outpost. I know they've got one in France. It's an outpost. Rugby league is an M62 corridor game. In Australia, it's slightly different, although frankly it was just a Sydney game until 10, 20 years ago, and they've branched out now to other bits. But it's not an international sport. It's a sport played by a couple of countries. Bit like baseball, except there it's just one country. Going to talk to Kay in Fallowfield after the headlines of sport and all that gubbins. It's exactly 20 to 1 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines, Kevin Fitzpatrick.
The leaders of Greater Manchester's councils have agreed the question for the referendum on the congestion charge. They're sticking with, do you agree with the Transport Innovation Fund proposals, yes or no, despite criticism from the No campaign. An investigation's underway in the Canary Islands after a passenger aircraft travelling from Glasgow came off the runway while landing at Lanzarote. Spanish officials say 74 people were on board, but no one was injured. And a pensioner's fought off a would-be attacker in Tameside by hitting him with a walking stick. The 72-year-old caused the teenager to run off after he approached her and demanded her bag. Weather, a dry and bright day, but feeling chilly with highs of 8 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Still very slow southbound on the M6. Junction 20 at Lymm is queuing towards Junction 19 at Knutsford. Not too bad on the northbound carriageway, and it's all returned to normal on the M60 anti-clockwise Junction 24 at Denton Island, where there was a broken down lorry on the exit slip, and also around Simister Island after the accident there, which caused a backlog not just on the M60 but also the M62. That's all now clear. Traffic doing well through the centre of the city at the moment. Not too much of a problem on public transport. If you do spot any problems, call in 0161 244 4951. I'm David Powell.
BBC Radio Manchester, Sports with Bill Rice.
Mark Hughes has been explaining why he chose to play Micah Richards at left-back against Middlesbrough. The Manchester City manager decided not to select Javier Garrido.
Javier's an attack-minded left-back, and I just felt away from home we've been a little bit too open, just as a consequence because of the positive play, and I just felt maybe it was an opportunity to see Mika in that position and give us an option when we're away from home, just to give us a little bit more solidity. It wasn't a reflection on how Javi had been playing, because he'd done well in the previous game.
Michael Ball is still unavailable to fill the left-back slot. He's carrying an injury. Pablo Zabaleta is expected to return to the City starting lineup at Bolton on Sunday. He's been suspended for the last 3 games. Striker Joe could start, having been on the bench at Middlesbrough, still recovering from tonsillitis, although Daniel Sturridge is likely to miss out with an ankle injury. The Bolton defender Gary Cahill says that everyone's devastated at the club. They were booed off the pitch on Wednesday night and sit second bottom of the Premier League ahead of Sunday's game against City. Wanderers striker Kevin Davis is calling on the fans.
We've not won enough games, simple as that really, but you know, it's up to us to put it right. There's a lot of lads in there who are down, obviously. We're all in it together, the players and the, you know, the management, and everyone's involved. The fans, you know, they need to get behind us and you know, try and push us on. We're going to need everyone.
Michael Carrick could make his first start for 7 weeks tomorrow when Manchester United take on Hull. Sir Alex Ferguson should have a fully fit squad to choose from, with the exception of Owen Hargreaves. The United boss has also revealed plans to begin rotating his 3 goalkeepers. Jim Gannon believes that Stockport fully deserve their place in the League One table, and they could be even higher. County are currently in 11th place ahead of tomorrow's game against Carlisle.
The last 3 games we've had 2 wins and a draw, and I'm hoping to build on this Saturday before we go into the FA Cup. So I'm really pleased with lads, because they've shown that it's not just a good start, that they're a good side and they're well able to play at this level and continue to pick up results, and the way they are in the league on merit. And, you know, with a bit of luck, we could have been a little bit higher.
Rochdale are still without defender Simon Ramsden and striker John Shaw for tomorrow's trip to Brentford. Keith Hill's side are now just 4 points behind the leaders Wickham after 3 straight wins, and he won't be rushing back the injured pair.
They won't be there on Saturday. You know, they're getting intense rehab, and it's important that they do, because we don't want any setbacks again, because we're down to 15 fit outfield players for the weekend's fixture, so it's important that we make sure that they're 100% fit when they do come back into the squad.
Lancashire's head groundsman Peter Maron has decided to leave Old Trafford after 30 years with the club. Maron's going at the end of the year to pursue other opportunities as a freelance groundsman. It's been some fight back. Australia closed the third day of the third test in India on 338 for 4. They still trail the home side's first innings total by 275 runs. Sale face Leicester in their final EDF Cup group game at Welford Road this evening. The Sharks are still yet to win in the competition this season. And at the Rugby League World Cup, Samoa have beaten Tonga by 20 points to 12. In the all-new Manchester Sports tonight, Jack Dearden has a Rugby League World Cup special. His guests will include the new Oldham coach Tony Benson, Swinton coach Paul Kidd, Steve Sims from the Salford City Reds, plus the former Wigan and Great Britain halfback Mike Ford. And you can get involved too by call, text and email. The show begins at 7. Sir Alan Stanford says that his 5-year contract with the ECB is not in peril. That's despite tomorrow's $20 million match being labelled a pantomime. Stanford has promised that concerns over the lighting and the slow pitches in Antigua will be resolved for the match between England and the West Indies All-Stars, and he maintains that 2020 is the future. And Andy Murray meets David Nalbandian today for a place in the semi-finals of the Paris Masters. Murray is still on course to become the first man ever to win 3 straight Masters Series titles.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station.
Wigan need a result at Fratton Park. There's full commentary of the Latics against Portsmouth in the all-new Manchester Sports tomorrow from 1 o'clock.
BBC Radio Manchester.
It's all right, I'm a bit confused. I'm still trying to get my head around the idea of a freelance groundsman. I mean, does he drag a big field round with him? Must have a damn big lorry. Anyway, there you are. Kay in Fallowfield. Sorry to get you waiting, are you?
Hello.
Hello, Kay. What can I do for you?
I'm just ringing because I enjoy your programme every day. I tune in every day. It's great to Radio Manchester. I really enjoy your programme. But today, I'm really naffed off today listening to this thing about Jonathan Ross.
Go on.
Because when I stand here and I'm seething, actually, because of all the publicity that this person is getting. And we are trying to fundraise for Francis House in Didsbury, the Children's Hospice.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be nice if someone had come up with a suggestion, maybe, that one of these people made a nice donation to the Children's Hospice instead of all, these millions. They're not going to feel the credit crunch, are they?
Probably not as hard as you or I, that's for sure.
No.
Yes.
But all this, it's on the television. Every time you switch everything on, it's all this been on now for a week. And really, I think it's time now that people just let it die down. I know he's overstepped the mark. I do enjoy him sometimes, I do watch his programme sometimes. But what is actually making me so angry is that myself and my friend, we've been going around selling tickets for the last month for this fundraising dance we're having for Francis House in Didsbury, the Children's Hospice, tomorrow night at St. Kentigern's in Fallowfield. And I think we're just a nice gesture if it was suggested that one of these rich people, as we say, would just make a gesture to any children's hospice.
Okay.
Because they so much want the money.
Well, they do indeed.
They need the money.
They do. And
I haven't heard anyone suggest anything like that yet.
I'll tell you the downside of it. You know me, Kay, I look for the downside. But if either of the two people involved here, either Jonathan Ross or Russell Brand, said, OK, I'm giving, and then named a great big number, I'm giving £1 million to charity, they would be accused, yeah, wonderful, they would be accused of the worst kind of cynicism.
I think so.
Yeah, they would. And there's where they are, and that's a very, very cruel Americanism, but the place in which they find themselves, the only thing they can do is say sorry and then stop talking.
Exactly.
Everything else they do will be interpreted by those who like them as wasn't that good of them, and by those who do not as what a pair of creeps. So maybe, and having said all of that, you can bet your bottom dollar that both of those individuals are frequently involved in fundraising, that's good, fundraising events for a variety of charities.
They are, yes, yes.
But you're right. I mean, there are more important things.
Everything you listen to is just going on and on and on.
I know.
And I'm just so angry that we have to flood the streets, try and sell tickets for our hospice here in our local hospice.
Well, in the end, we're all forced to agree that there are substantially more important things than some bloke making a mistake on the wireless.
Exactly.
Well,
anyway, thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Where's the dance again?
Oh, it's been held tomorrow evening in St Kentigern's in Fallowfield, and we're fundraising for the Francis House in Disbury.
Excellent. And is it sold out yet?
No, we still have some tickets left, and we're really begging for raffle prizes, to be honest.
All right. Well, how much are tickets?
They're £2.50. They're £5 on the door tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's not bad, is it?
That's cheap.
Excellent.
Yeah,
well, and if any businesses are listening and they feel like making a worthwhile contribution to the world, then they can get in touch. Good on you, Kay.
That's excellent. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye now.
Thanks.
Hayden in Denton, hi.
Good afternoon, Alan.
Good afternoon, sir.
It was just reiteration about that chap that was on about China and the organ dome.
Yes.
I actually
I don't think they're organ donors, do you?
No, you know what I mean.
Organ
I
use.
actually watched the programme, and he's quite right in what he said. The people, the executed, they actually use the organs where possible. And to me, that's fair enough. They've gone.
Yeah.
And I'm fully in agreement with it. But they did have a policy that if you was in need of an organ and you live wherever, you could get in touch through the internet and you could actually go over there. And so long as you got the money and the organ was suitable for you, then there was a system where you could have that organ donated and you pay for it.
Indeed. So you basically buy an organ.
Yeah, and if you're in the position where you need that and you've got the money, well, so be it. But, as like everything else, people were exploited. Somebody, then they went to India, where this apparently is inverted bracket business.
Well, what the thing is, it's a slightly different allegation in India, isn't it? The allegation there is that very, very poor people are selling one of their kidneys.
That's correct.
And very, very rich people are buying them.
That is exactly right, what I was coming to. Whether you think it's exploitation or not, well, I think it's got to be.
It's hard to get away from that word, isn't it? I can't think...
It is. And there again, if you're the one that's wanting the organ, then you oversee that, and all you're really bothered about is getting your organ and living a few more years longer.
Well, there's two things here, isn't there? There's the person with the money to buy it.
Yes.
And then there's the person who's got nothing and has no other means of getting something. And if a parent, a father perhaps, said, well, I can't educate my children, I can't even feed them, I've got 2 kidneys...
That was one of the elements of the programme which they highlighted. So, coming away at the end of it, you didn't really feel too bad about the programme, is it... The only thing is it morally right? I mean, in my... like you say, it all comes down to circumstances, doesn't it?
But
where you are in the world.
It does indeed, but let's look at that morality. We're very, very sensitive. In many, many countries, United States, most of Europe, I believe, there's no such thing as donating blood. You sell it.
You sell it. Exactly.
You sell it.
Some people make a living out of it.
They do. I can remember squaddies who were serving in Germany, and they crossed the border to another country and sold a pint of blood, or a half litre, or whatever it was, in the other country. What's wrong with that?
Well, in my eyes, nothing. But to some people, yes, it's morally wrong. And to reiterate what you said, I watched the programme about the Americans, and if the bloke had donated that much blood, they had to get him in hospital and give him some back.
Well, indeed, it gets a bit silly then, doesn't it? You just have it on a big machine. He goes in there through the cash register and back into his other arm.
But about the Chinese thing, I mean, the only reason I think it was highlighted here because it was China. And I mean, to be honest with you, European countries, I think they'd do that if they could get around the morality of it.
But that's the thing. But that's why they were picking on China, because they don't need to get around the morality of it. They can do whatever they like. They're a huge dictatorship.
Yeah. And as regards the executed people, like you say, it's like me. I'm an organ donor, when I die. What good is it to me? It's exactly the same thing, but people are saying, well, perhaps they didn't have, well, they're dead and gone, so, And what you've got
what's
to
the
look
worry?
at is you're giving somebody else a chance of life, aren't you?
Quite so. Good on you, Hayden.
Yeah, all right,
Cheers, mate.
bye-bye.
Don't forget, if you want to be an organ donor, you're even considering being an organ donor, it's there. Just type organ donor into your search engine, Google or any of that, and it'll spit the organ donor thing up onto your computer, and you can register there. Or you can, if you've previously registered and changed your mind, you can deregister. So I've got the card in my wallet, but I'm also on the computer bit. But you don't have to be. I mean, what do you think about that? What do you think about the idea of you should be?
Mornings sound better with Eamon O'Neill and Diane Oxbury.
Eamon and Diane.
There's enough tea in one tea bag for at least 3 cups. It's such a waste to throw them away. Reuse them by letting them dry out after squeezing them.
Do you know, well, I've done that with shredded wheat, you know. I've filled it full of pink soap and used it as a Brillo pad.
Eamon and Diane and you.
So are you tight?
I used to work with a guy. He used to get off the bus, the stop before everybody else got off because he saved 10 pence.
Did it make you like him any the less, though, Brian?
He was a miserable old dog.
The station with Eamon and Diane for breakfast.
I like it.
Back tomorrow morning from 6 at BBC Radio Manchester.
On the stop, the subject of getting off the bus early, doctors recommend it all the time, don't they? They say get on the bus or stop later, get off the bus or stop early, and walk the 2 bus stops. It'll make you healthy, it'll keep you alive. And, in the case of the man that Diane was referring to, it'll save you too. Bob, Allan in Sale. Hi, Allan.
Hello, mate, you okay?
I'm very well.
Good. Just listening to the earlier caller regarding the international eligibility in rugby league. And as I'm listening to the question being put, I thought, well, phone the RFL in Leeds. And then I thought, well, that's probably the last thing you want to do, and I'll tell you why.
Because they're waiting for us to tell them.
I think they are. And I know this as a fact, because in an earlier life, I was involved in match announcements for rugby league and union, but predominantly league.
Yeah.
And I worked at one of the World Cups in the last few years. Now, part of my job was to announce the names of the players. And we were given a lovely tie, as we call it, was in Widnes at the Holton Stadium as it was then. And it was Russia against somebody else, I can't remember. So I'm travelling down to the stadium and I'm thinking, oh my goodness me, I'm going to have to get this team sheet early. It's going to be full of in-ovs and on-ovs and all sorts of ovs. And with trepidation, I made my way down to the changing rooms and met the officials and got my team sheet, and they were all called Trent and Bruce, and they were all Australian.
Well, yes, but Australia's full of people from nowhere, or from somewhere else, apart from the indigenous Aboriginal, as we call them.
Yes,
Australia's...
from 1 to 13, Alan. I was absolutely...
They couldn't find one Rusky.
I think there was a couple on the bench. Keeping the oranges cold for half time or something like that. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but I'm sure they could have found more Ruskers than they did. There was about 3 or 4 in the side. And as I say, you know, it was with relief that I read Bruce and Trent rather than Igor and what have you. But it just jumped out at me, and I thought, they've never seen Moscow. So, yeah, I don't think the RFL do know the rules.
No, well,
turn up and show me your ticket, you might get a game.
Well, that's rugby league, isn't it?
Of course it is.
Played by donkeys, run by bigger donkeys.
And in a way, let's not change it.
Well, quite. It's a fabulous game. I love watching it. I enjoyed playing it at school. I ended up playing union after joining the army. What do you mean you like that? Don't you come here, I'm no traitor. But I did enjoy playing it. But yeah, it's a great game. And for all we criticise the people that run it, it's still a fantastic game.
It is, and I wouldn't play it.
No, well, no. It's, I mean... The son of one of my neighbours wanted to play, and when he realised that he was never going to be 7 foot tall and 25 stone and fit as a butcher's dog, he had the third one, the fit as a butcher's dog, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah, that was me. I decided if I'm ever going to play, I'm going to play on the wing in a unique position. It's called the first seat in the tent. It's safer.
I don't sit in those now. You get rained on. I go right at the back way out the weather.
You
Terrible.
have to suffer for your sport,
I was at the cinema one day in Wigan, just minding my own business in the queue, and then, you know, a bloke ambled up behind me, and he suddenly knocked me on the head, you know, tap, tap, tap on my head. I looked round and it was Andy Farrell. And you forget that he's like 94 feet tall.
He's massive.
I know.
He's absolutely...
But he's just the same size of all the others on the pitch.
Well, you were lucky, because...
Knocked me on the head like I was a midget. He could have done, I'd have seen nothing, but he's knocked me on the head and said, "What are you doing here, Beswick?" So I told him, obviously. Cheers, Alan.
No problem.
Join me
me, Jack Gideon, tonight from 7 for the Rugby League World Cup debate with guests from all our local clubs. That's me, them and you.
After 1 o'clock, we got Mona, who might be Peter, and Chris. We know not his gender. With guest Monas, with guest Peters, we wonder about Chris's. Perhaps he or she does. We shall find out a little later.
95.1 FM,
DAB Digital Radio,
and the World Wide Web.
This is Manchester.
BBC Radio Manchester.
At 1 o'clock, Greater Manchester's council leaders agreed to question the question for the congestion referendum, and Brown is criticised for trying to borrow his way out of a crisis.
Zabaleta and Joe could return for City against Bolton.
Well, this afternoon will be fairly sunny, chilly and breezy, and there's just a chance of a shower across the Pennines. Top temperatures 8 Celsius.
Still Junction.
Good afternoon, I'm Kevin Fitzpatrick. The leaders of Greater Manchester's councils have agreed the question for the referendum on the congestion charge. They're sticking with, do you agree with the Transport Innovation Fund proposals, yes or no, despite criticism from the campaign against it. Lord Peter Smith, the chairman of AGMA, says the vote will be crucially important.
We are in a situation where, when the referendum makes its decision, it will determine the package we take. If there is a no vote for that, then there is no funding for these transport schemes from the Department of Transport.
A pensioner has fought off a robber with a walking stick in Tameside. It happened on Wednesday morning when the 72-year-old was walking down an alleyway off Lodge Close in Duckingfield, and she was approached by a teenager who demanded her bag. But she hit him with a walking stick, forcing him to run off towards Ellesmere Road. The Shadow Chancellor, George Osborne, has attacked Gordon Brown's borrowing plans, saying they'll lead to economic ruin. He says the Prime Minister's decision not to limit public spending during a recession will saddle Britain with a decade of debt. He wants to help hard-pressed families through tax freezes instead, but the Treasury Minister, Angela Eagle, says that's not the answer.
If George Osborne is suggesting that we should cut public expenditure at the beginning of a recession, that deepens an economic recession. It deepens any kind of downturn. It's exactly the wrong thing to do. It's exactly what Conservative governments have done in the past. It's the wrong way to approach the economic challenges that Britain is facing now.
The chairman of the BBC Trust, which represents licence fee payers, has said the corporation must be firmer on excesses. Sir Michael Lyons was speaking in the wake of the controversy surrounding the broadcast of an obscene phone call by the presenters Russell Brand and Jonathan Ross on Radio 2. But Sir Michael insisted the BBC still had to be able to take risks. Gordon Brown has said petrol prices should be coming down faster at the pumps because of the fall in oil prices. Speaking to business leaders, Mr Brown emphasised the importance of alternatives to oil.
It is a tragedy that the world is prey to one volatile commodity that can disrupt businesses, disrupt people's lives by a trebling of prices over a very short period of time. And interestingly enough, an industry run by a cartel, not run in a free market way at all. And we've got to solve this energy problem because it's part of our climate change problems, but it's also part of this question about how affordable energy is.
Some of Great Britain's gold medal-winning cyclists will be racing at the Track Cycling World Cup in Manchester this weekend. Olympic heroes like Bradley Wiggins, Jason Kenny and Victoria Pendleton will be part of the British team starring at the Velodrome. The three-day event is completely sold out, and the event director, Johnny Clay, says that's all down to the success in Beijing.
I think it's all based on that, to be frank. I think also Manchester, obviously we live in Manchester as a team, but also as a national federation, we're based here. It's the kind of this Manchester effect, really, that over the last, I guess, probably realistically 8 years to 10 years, there's been this growing following of track cycling fans.
Take that have announced 2 more dates on next year's tour after a huge demand for tickets this morning. They're in Glasgow on June the 19th and at the Old Trafford Cricket Club on June the 24th. 300,000 tickets were sold in less than an hour. And police in Derbyshire have turned to James Bond for help in dealing with Halloween trick-or-treaters. Teenagers in the town of Long Eaton are being offered free seats to see the new Bond film, Quantum of Solace, in the hope of keeping them off the streets tonight.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Bill Rice.
Manchester City expect to have Pablo Zabaleta back for Sunday's game with Bolton. Brazilian striker Joe could also return after recovering from tonsillitis, but Daniel Sturridge is likely to miss out with an ankle injury. Michael Carrick could make his first start in 7 weeks when Manchester United face Hull tomorrow. Manager Sir Alex Ferguson has also hinted at plans to rotate his goalkeepers. Jim Gannon believes that Stockport County could be even higher in the League One table. They're currently 11th ahead of tomorrow's match against Carlisle. Sir Alan Stanford says that his 5-year contract with the ECB is not in peril. That's despite tomorrow's $20 million match being labelled as a pantomime. Lancashire's head groundsman Peter Maron has decided to leave Old Trafford after 30 years with the club. And Andy Murray meets David Nalbandian today for a place in the semi-finals of the Paris Masters.
BBC Radio Manchester satellite weather with Heather Stott.
Most of us will get away with a dry afternoon and it'll be bright with a fair amount of sunshine, although there is a brisk and chilly northeasterly breeze blowing, and that's occasionally going to bring 1 or 2 showers across the Pennines, and those showers could be wintry on the higher ground. Top temperatures at best 8 Celsius.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Hiya, you all right? Belting. It's all going awfully well, is it not? 0161 228 2255. If you've got something to say, that's fine. And the email address is radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk. And the text number is 07786 206 951. Should I just bring you up to date with all this Ross Brand nonsense? The Director General of the BBC, Mark Thompson, has defended his decision to suspend Jonathan Ross. It follows the controversy surrounding the blah, 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 blah. Ross has been suspended without pay over the incident, and there we go. The DG said that Ross was an exceptional broadcaster, much loved by many of the station's listeners and the like. So there you are. So that's it. So we can kind of move on from there now, can't we? Can't we? Oh, come on, surely. 0161 228 2255. David in Crumpsall, surely the Chinese use of organs of executed people is the ultimate socialist dictum. From each according to his means, to each according to his needs. Yeah, in that way, certainly the executed have no use of their organs any further. So, yeah, you might as well. And Chris in Middleton, it's perfectly possible that your colleague was happier than usual. My wife's been complaining about the stink of cannabis on her bus journeys for years. It seems smoking cannabis is less offensive than smoking a woodbine on the bus to the authorities. I can even detect amusement in your tone when your usual stance on smokers is that the death penalty is too good for them. Right on all counts, but that doesn't mean I'm condoning the use of cannabis, not by any stretch of the imagination. I am merely reporting that which was brought to my attention in a jolly jape sort of a way this morning, which I enjoyed immensely. I did. 0161 228 2255. And Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk, and the text number 07786 206 951.
This is the Northwest's biggest sports station. This is BBC Radio Manchester.
And that will seal the points for Manchester United.
Manchester United entertain table-topping Hull at Old Trafford tomorrow.
And Heskey scores.
There's commentary of Wigan's trip to Portsmouth in the Premier League.
He's got a hat-trick. He's got it.
Coverage too of Oldham against Yeovil. Stockport versus Carlisle. Bury's trip to Notts County.
And he's made it 2-1 to Rochdale.
And Rochdale's visit to Brentford.
The all-new Manchester Sports from 1 o'clock tomorrow. BBC Radio Manchester.
Mona in Newtonley Willers, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good. What can we do for you?
Right, well, a while ago, someone was on, why did Pat Richards play for Ireland?
Right, yeah, well, I don't remember the name, but why did somebody, yes.
Yeah.
What was the
for the
criteria?
Rugby League, yeah. Well, when the teams were picked, I read it in the paper, whether it was the Wigan paper or the Rugby League paper, I can't remember which. His parents were Irish. His sister was born in Ireland, and they emigrated to Australia, and he was born in Australia. Hence, he plays for Ireland.
Right. So, do you know, I mean, that's an explanation of that particular individual.
Yeah.
Do you by any chance know the criteria?
No.
No. Because that's what we were clutching at. Because it does seem to be, should we say, a movable feast.
Well, it does,
doesn't it? You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's tricky.
It is really.
Yeah.
But, I mean, normally, you say, well, the grandparents was born here and the grandparents was born there, so they can play for this team or that team. But, I mean, obviously, he is Irish, isn't he?
Well, he certainly has
Irish descent.
A sliver of Irishness in him.
Yeah.
It's how big is the sliver? On this occasion, you could argue, what would it be, a quarter? Or would it be an eighth?
Well, it was his parents, so...
Yeah, so...
I would say it was half.
Yeah, I suppose half. So if he's half Irish, he should just play in the first half.
Well, this is it.
He should play half a game.
Yeah. Anyway, going back, I don't know if you saw this morning's Rugby League or not, but...
I did not.
Well, it was a very good game. It was a strenuous game, a fast game, but it was very good. We enjoyed it very much.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are we going to get anywhere in this tournament?
I don't know.
By that I mean England, of course.
I know what you mean.
Great Britain.
Yeah, I doubt it, really. I think the Aussies are too big and, well, I don't know. I think the Aussies will win. I wish England could win, but they're not as fast as they are.
I don't understand that. I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't understand why our players... Because we've a lot of good ones, but why our players cannot reach the level of the Aussies?
Well, whether it's the coaching, we don't know, do we? But
well, it can't be the coaching. All our coaches are Aussies.
Well, they are, aren't they? Precisely, and nearly all the teams are as well.
Yeah.
They don't give our lads a chance, half of them. But
what do you mean by that? They don't give them a chance?
Well, they're bringing the Aussies in all the time, or the New Zealanders. They're looking over there all the time. All right, they're good players, but let them give our lads here a chance to show what they're doing and what they can do. I mean, we never will have a good England team if our English teams are picking Australians all the time.
They said that about the coaches, didn't they, years ago? They said, why would anybody, after playing, go on to coaching in the knowledge that, well, you're only ever going to coach the junior sides because the senior sides all pick an Aussie?
Yeah, they do. So.
But I suppose from the point of view of the people who run the teams, and by that I mean the management, the owners, the chairman and all of that, they pick the best. Now, we've had, in Warrington, we've had... we've had one English coach. We've now got another English coach.
Yeah.
But neither of them have yet done
anything.
That big. Well, you say. I mean, you can't say that. Warrington.
Well, all right. Warrington have come up a bit, haven't they, this last couple of seasons?
Yeah, and that's got to be a lot to do with the coach and the management structure and the finance structure behind him.
Yeah.
But Paul did a good job. But
he did.
Couldn't get into the top four.
No.
Now, they've replaced him with this other guy who may or may not. We'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see, what the outcome is.
But you can see, I'm not suggesting that I know anything about this, but you can see that your coaches, eventually you'll start to look, and the people who put the money into Warrington, the people, Dougie, who all the rest of it, who's the chairman, you can see them eventually saying, well, if we want to be in the top four, we're going to have to do something more than employ the best of British coaching.
And that's it, yeah.
I know, it's weird, isn't it?
It is very.
Hey-ho, such
anyway,
is. All right.
Wait for next February to come.
All right, when we're all back again. Who's your team, then, from Newton Willers?
Need you ask.
Well, I hesitate, but...
Wigan, of course.
All right, right. I've lost interest now. Oh, yes. Have a good one, Mona.
OK, thank you.
Bye-bye now. So that's how that particular player made it, but how do the others make it? And in the end, how much does it matter? 0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk. Tim in Worsley. I may be cynical, Tim, you may indeed. I may be cynical, but I wonder if Jonathan Ross will use his suspension filming abroad for the BBC so that programmes can be shown as soon as his suspension ends. I hope I am wrong. I suspect he won't be. Mine was only 3 days, but having endured your 3 days of suspension, you're persona non grata during that. No one can work with you or talk to you other than the bloke that phoned you up and says, OK, you're off the hook. So I suspect he won't be. And just imagine the furore. Just imagine what the press would make of it if he was... Because he presents the film programme, doesn't he, Jonathan Ross? You imagine if he was in Vegas or LA or whatever for the launch of a film, and whilst they're recording an interview with the star thereof during his suspension, the press would go absolutely balmy. So your cynicism may be well-founded, but I think the practicalities of the risk are such that, no, that won't happen. Peter in Hyde.
Good morning, Alan.
Hello,
good
Peter.
Afternoon.
Either of those?
It's a thing. I've just been sat here thinking, I'm a pensioner myself.
Okay.
Now, it's Halloween night tonight, right?
It is, yes.
Right. Now, I've just come back from Wales. I've had English programmes and the Welsh programme. There's nobody, or if they have, I've not heard it, have mentioned when people are knocking on doors tonight, the old people what's sitting in the houses, it could be a mugger. So it's about time the BBC or these programmes made these old people aware of it, that they could be getting mugged when somebody knocks on the door, say, trick or treat. They could be being mugged, and there's no service that I've heard, or no area, or no broadcasting company has alerted these old people to be by themselves not to open the bloody doors tonight. It's terrible. You could be mugged. It could be your mother. It could be your father. It could be my mother. God rest her soul. They're not, because they're not here. But it could be any old age pensioner sat there watching the television. They get that knock, trick or treat, and they could be mugged. It's about time. Some of these airwaves, either the Granada Studio or whatever you want to call it, Channel 4, anybody, want to put it out and say, right, tonight it's Halloween night. Old age people, please keep your doors locked and don't answer. That's all I've got to say, Alan, please.
Well, OK, I mean, you've said it, and that's the warning gone out. I fall between two stools here.
Yes, I can imagine that.
And yeah, it's what I spend my life doing in a way, isn't it? But the reason is, I understand what you just said, and frankly support it, and say to those people who, well, you said old people, I would broaden...
Well, anybody.
Well, exactly.
Anybody.
You see, I don't think the old are any more likely to be balmy.
And you?
Exactly.
Correct. I agree with that.
So what I would say is, if somebody knocks at your door... and you're not comfortable... No, if somebody knocks at your door and you're not comfortable with answering it, then do not.
Yeah, I can understand that, but nobody's ever put this on the television or the radio, as far as I know, to say, look, it's Halloween's evening, please do not open your doors to these people who knock. It could be knock, and you get knocked.
Well, you see...
You understand what I mean, Alan?
But don't you think such a message would be patronising to old people? Like, I promise you, if I said to my dad...
Yeah.
Now, my dad's 85, 86.
Yeah.
If I said to my dad, now, look, Dad, it's Halloween... Yeah. If anybody knocks on your door tonight, don't answer it.
Yes.
I'll tell you what he'd say.
I have an idea what he'll say.
Who the hell do you think you're talking to? I brought you up.
He might use so much stronger than that.
No, he wouldn't, because he doesn't. But he'd certainly make me aware of I'm the boy and he's the dad.
Yeah, but he'll wrap your knuckles, in other words, in a nice way.
He would point out to me the error of my interpretation skills.
But you can understand how I feel about this, or how I try to put it over, Alan. You may put it over in a different way. There's no airways ever said this to the people. Please keep your doors locked. Where I live, I have a television camera, and the minute anybody knocks on my door, I press a button, it comes up on my television. So there's no way I'm going to be mugged, because I have a television, and I just press a button, and whoever's ever at my door, the camera takes over, and I see them on my television.
Well, that's fair enough.
That is true. I don't know if you've ever seen them or not.
I have seen them. I wouldn't have one gimme, but I have seen them.
Yeah, but they're very good in that respect. That's all I want to say, Alan.
Well, let me just show off to you.
Yeah, go on, Alan.
Yesterday we had delivered, ready so that we can bore ourselves to death. We had a gigantic television delivered.
Free?
Good God, no.
Oh,
no. A dirty, great big I don't know what it is.
What, a 90-inch?
One of the... No, it's not that big. Where do you think I live? I'm not Jonathan Ross, you know.
Oh, he's going to get sacked then. Well, he wants sacking then because...
I hope I get the money if he does. Well, hey, that's a thought, isn't it? They've got £1.5 million. They don't need the B.
Well, why don't they say to them, why don't the BBC, this is their chance now? Right, you can do it. You're a broadcaster.
I'm with you all the way.
I will put £50 down now if the BBC will put these wages in to cancer research or buy wheelchairs for these people.
Well, that's a good idea, but I was thinking of them giving it me, but, as a second...
I'll pay for your holiday next year, won't it?
As a second best, give it to the poor.
Correct.
Give it to the injured. But as a first best, give it to me. It's a good time to put in for a rise. Hang on a minute. Can you run the programme for the next hour or so? I'm off to see the boss.
Okay, I have to see the boss. Okay. No, I've just been in Morrison's and bought some whiskey there.
You'll be all right then. Good on you, Peter.
Okay, Alan, thanks
Have
very
a good
much.
day. It is, isn't it? It's a good day for a rise. I'll go and see him. Mind you, he's probably hid under the stairs. All the management are at the moment for reasons that are fair too obvious. It's 1:20 on BBC Radio Manchester. Kevin Fitzpatrick's got the headlines.
Greater Manchester's council leaders have approved changes to the proposed congestion charge and public transport improvements, which would see fewer people paying it. They've also agreed that the question on the referendum will be, do you agree with the Transport Innovation Fund proposals, yes or no? Take that have added a third extra date to the two announced earlier today. They'll now be playing at Old Trafford Cricket Ground on June the 22nd, which makes 5 nights in Manchester. And the chairman of the BBC Trust, Sir Michael Lyons, which represents licence fee payers, has said the corporation must be firmer on excesses, but he's insisted it still had to be able to take risks. The weather, a dry and bright day, but feeling chilly, with highs of 8 Celsius.
Which Old Trafford, Kevin?
Old Trafford Cricket Ground.
All right. So they'll be playing there.
Which one did you think?
Well, I wasn't sure, there's 2 of them.
I did say Old Trafford Cricket Ground.
Did you?
Unless I missed it, but they're written in front of me.
It's more likely I dozed off.
That doesn't mean I read it, though, does it?
No. And you're a rugby league player, aren't you?
Well, of some sort, yeah. I'm on my way down,
Having never really gone up. But do you know the rules about antecedents for playing international? Not that it's troubled you much.
I don't really know what antecedents means.
Okay, well, we call it a day then, should we?
BBC Radio Manchester.
Oh, dear.
2020 traffic.
Starting to ease off a bit on the southbound M6. Been some very slow traffic between junction 22 at Newton Le Willows and junction 19 at Knutsford, but starting to see some gaps in that traffic. Still some slow traffic on the move between those two locations. M60 all doing nicely, though. No problems at Denton Island now, and it's looking clear around the Swinton interchange, not just on the M60 but also the M61. Things doing fine through the centre of Manchester as well. If you do spot any problems, call in 0161 244 4951. I'm David Powell.
2020 traffic means you get an update every 20 minutes through the day.
BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. 0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk. And the text number, of course, is 07786 206 951. I'm sorry, David in Crumpsall said Warrington should get a Swedish coach. Volvos are very comfortable. That's not even nearly funny. Chris in Marple. Hiya, Chris.
Hiya, it's female Chris.
Indeed, I've guessed now. Thank you anyway for the hint.
That's all right.
What can we do?
I'm a bit nervous because last time I came on you cut me off.
Oh, dear.
I was about smoking, and I'm still not smoking.
Oh, good on you.
But anyway, that's another point. Trick or treating.
Yeah.
The gentleman earlier said, about elderly people. Well, he actually said pensioners. And I'm a pensioner, born the same year as you, Alan, though, but slightly older, but not a lot.
Okay. Poor you. It's feeling bad for me.
I used to think it was a very good year until you cut me off and everything.
I think so. It was only good for girls.
Absolutely.
Go on.
Anyway, the point of this trick or treating. Sadly, my husband's cousin, who's 5 years younger than we are, has developed Alzheimer's. And we were around there the other night. She's got carers going in and everything's sort of in place. But around there the other night, putting some new light bulbs up because she's hidden them all. And we came out, she locked the door, walked up to the car, and there was some fireworks went off. We hardly noticed them. She suddenly came running out the door. What was that? Was frightened. And I thought, oh, God, you know, we're going to have this for weeks now. But then I thought about tonight, because this may sound snobby. Well, it is a bit snobby. I live in Marple, and I live in quite a nice area, and she lives in Marple Bridge, again, quite a nice area. But last year, one of our neighbours had the house sort of pelted with eggs. And I thought, she's going to be absolutely terrified tonight if anybody knocks on her door.
Yeah.
You know, a good point that you made, not the elderly, like your dad, or like me, a pensioner, or you, almost a pensioner. But it could be anybody. And this person is mentally ill, won't remember maybe that she should or shouldn't open the door. I'm going to go round as it happens.
Well, that's a decent thing to do. Well done for that.
You know, but saying that, I'm going to make my husband stay at home here because I don't want it. Sounds awful. I don't want anything to happen to our house.
I mean, this is beginning. I don't just mean you. This is beginning to sound horrible. Horrible. What started out years ago, not many years ago, we never used to bother with Halloween when I was a kid.
Well, I didn't.
Exactly, we're the same age, so you're a little bit older. But
thank you.
You had a go
Not
at
a
me.
lot, not a
No,
lot.
indeed, all the days count.
They do, yes.
But the truth, you know, I mean, when we were younger, it never happened. This is comparatively new. I mean, when did it start happening? 10 years ago?
I don't know.
Bit more?
People reckoned it came over from America, didn't
Well,
it?
without a doubt it did,
I'm
without
sure
a
it did.
doubt.
I mean, I don't mind. Unfortunately, where we live, or fortunately as the case may be, there aren't many children. They tend to be older people. But when my boys were younger and it had come in, we went next door. We got dressed up and we knocked on just next door and the lady opposite. And I didn't really like it, but I didn't send them round like some children do now. Last year I had 4, I'd call them young men. I would reckon 12, 13, and they were big lads, and I'm only little. And I felt intimidated. They weren't dressed up. They just, you know, and I gave, perhaps I shouldn't, but I gave them, I got like some chocolate bars, and I gave them a chocolate bar. And they said, have you got any money? And I said, no, I haven't, I'm sorry, and closed the door. Now, that frightened me.
When I see it, and okay, my experience of trick and treat in America is frankly just films and news items on the day, like they'll be today. And they do it, it's, first of all, it's the tiddlies. You know, 5,
yes,
6...
little children.
Yes.
And
They're
they
all...
dress up properly.
They dressed up for the part, and their parents go with them.
Yeah.
It's not something that the kids do on their own. And frankly, it's changed. It's changed massively.
Has it changed over there, do you think, Alan?
I don't know, because I don't think it has, because the American... I mean, me particularly, we have a go at the Yanks hither and thither, do we not? But frankly, America are quite attached to their traditions.
Yeah, Thanksgiving and Halloween. Yeah, I see what you mean. But anyway, I just wanted to say that because I've been shopping and I didn't hear anybody say about trick or treat until the gentleman.
Yeah, nobody has. He was the first and you're the second.
And I thought that 12 months ago maybe you'd have had more, you know, because of all the publicity about Russell Brand and Jonathan Ross. I thought maybe last year you might have had more phone calls than this year about it. If you understand what I mean.
I do, yes, I do.
Well, being the same age as me or similar, you'll be on the same wavelength, apart from for smoking.
Well,
but I'm not smoking.
Let me just tell you something about smoking.
Oh, no, don't come
No,
on.
I won't, don't worry.
Thank you.
I haven't changed my mind, I hasten to add. I think they are still idiots. But let's leave that alone. About 18 months, 2 years ago, for reasons that are too long to go into, but I went to a bingo hall to have a go at being a bingo caller.
I remember you talking about
And we went to the one in Middleton. It was packed out. It was great fun. I mean, I wouldn't want to spend a night in a bingo hall, but it was great fun. It was packed out. And they were all smoking like chimneys.
Yeah.
Fine. On Tuesday, for reasons, again, that are too tedious to go into, I was in another bingo hall. A different one.
I know what you're going to say.
And it wasn't deserted, but they were only half full, and there was no smoking, and I spoke to one or two people, and they objected strongly to the fact that they couldn't smoke.
Really?
And I got to thinking that the smoking ban I'm very much in favour of, and I wouldn't want...
Me too.
Well, it's quite extraordinary, isn't it? And I did we did a piece last week. Well, I didn't do it, but it was in the big issue last week. The news question: why are all the pubs closing? And the resounding answer came back for a variety of reasons, including smoking, the banning of smoking. So
and money proper people
well,
struggling with money.
well, quite, but all of that. But I just thought we have to find a way of accommodating people doing things that I disagree with. And that includes smoking.
Thank you.
And maybe what we need to do is to go back to this measure and say, all right, what public premises can do. And I can immediately hear me arguing against this in my head, but we need to find a way of saying, OK, that pub over there has chosen to be a smoker's pub. Now, I'm not going to say has chosen to have a smoking room, because I think that defeats it. It's a smoker's pub. And we also say if they serve food, they don't have smoking, full stop. But they can choose to be a smoker's pub. That bingo hall can choose to be a smoker's bingo hall. So anyone who goes in there knows that when they go in there, it is going to be a smoking one. Or not.
I never thought I'd hear you say
well, it's about freedom, you see.
I know,
and
that's what I was trying to tell you.
Well, you should have dragged me to a bingo hall.
Well,
but it was just being
I've
in
never
there. Well, I've only been twice, and the good news is I won 25 quid on the way out, but that's neither in nor there, so maybe I was bought. But I did think, how unjust is it of somebody like me who argues all the time for as much freedom as is possible to impose my view on somebody else. But I'm still with the idea that nobody should... I wouldn't allow smoking in the street. I wouldn't allow smoking on public transport or in... When I say public buildings, I mean post offices, benefits offices, doctors' surgeries.
I appreciate it.
But commercial premises surely should be allowed to choose for themselves whether they are or are not petitioned, but whether they are or are not smoking premises. And it's up to the staff to decide whether they want to work there.
Yeah, I never thought to hear you say that.
Well, you see, freedom gets me in the end.
Well, I wish I'd brought that point up when you cut me off before
I was probably in the mood where you couldn't have got any sense into me, love.
You were, actually. Because I was so cross. I nearly went out to buy a packet of cigarettes, but I didn't.
Oh, well done, you.
I didn't.
Well done, you. Well, I don't care why you don't, as long as you don't. Good on you, Chris.
And if I ever start again, Alan, I'll come into a building where you opened it so that smokers can go in.
All right, well, I don't think I'll be opening one, to be honest, but...
Thank you for not cutting me off.
It's all right. Have a good day, Chris.
Thank you.
0161 228 2255. Yes, it is a reversal of my view. I have not, by any means, warmed to smokers. I haven't. Oh, warmed to smoke, that's good, isn't it? But my experience in the bingo hall the other night was that there were an awful lot of people there. I don't want to sound in any way patronising, but just ordinary people like me. Just ordinary people. And those that were there, many of them were having part of their pleasure denied them. Those who were not there in the main because, according to the one or two I spoke to, were not there because they don't want to come because they can't have a fag. And I thought, what right has a middle-of-the-road liberal like me got to impose that on somebody else? Now, the problem here is that I think it is unlikely that any bingo hall would open saying we are a non-smoking bingo hall. That's where the problems begin. But my view has moved slightly in that if a commercial premise wants to say we are a smoking place, we permit it throughout our building, then so be it. Not a hotel. I wouldn't have hotels, although frankly they can. Not a hotel, none of those, but premises where there's no food, no sleep, as it were. Then they should, if a pub wants to be a smoker's pub, I have to defend its right to make that choice. I wish I didn't. But I think I do. I'd never go in it, but for crying out loud, I don't go in the damn things anyway. I don't. So, I don't know. you can hear me struggling with my own point of view. But isn't that what life's about from time to time? Peter in Worsley. Hi, Peter.
Oh, good afternoon. You've been talking about the M62 corridor in a sporting context.
Yes.
And quite by chance on the internet yesterday, I came across an item that I could scarcely believe. It was a statement by the chairman of Lee Genesis Football Club.
Oh, yes.
To the effect that he was resigning and withdrawing his financial support.
Mm.
And I don't know if you know, but by now the club should have been playing in the new Lee Sports Village stadium.
They should, yes, they should.
But
I thought
that's been delayed, and I think the earliest they're hoping to get there is about December. But what had actually triggered this action was a demand by the council, Wigan Borough Council, who I guess must own the stadium, a demand for £3,000 per match for stewarding, which, of course, for a club at that level is a huge amount of money. And I think the proposal was that they would need 45 stewards just for the one part of the ground that would be open for those games.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if they know this, but I mean, Lee are lucky if they pull in about 150 spectators.
They don't get many, that's
so
for
it would
sure.
be a pretty cosy level of stewarding. You know, you'd almost have your own personal steward. And as I say, this has prompted him to resign. I believe that's thrown the whole future of the football club into some doubt, because they don't have much money. They don't pull in the crowds. They are short of money, and I think there's a real danger they may go under. But I just wondered what the purpose of this development, this Lee Sports Village, actually was, because I think the idea was that the football club would play there, the Lee Centurions Rugby League Club would play there. It would also be a facility for other local sports. Yet the council seemed to be doing their best to drive one of the main users away. And it just seems an absolute nonsense.
You fall into, again, there's no straight answers, are there? That's one of the great problems of life. You say about 150, I don't know the figures, but not many people go to Lee Centurions as was. I don't know what they're called these days. But if we then say, OK, they're going to this nice posh ground, which is owned by the local authority, is it the job of the local authority to give them a low rent so that they can then operate the sport for so small a number? It's not like it's big business. It's not big business. It's little business.
It is. But one presumes the main motivation behind this development in the first instance was really community use and community in the widest sense. So there will be facilities for local people to use, but also local sporting clubs at whatever level. And presumably this was all thought about before the actual development went ahead. And one really would have thought that these details would have been thrashed out, long ago. Because I mean the whole project has been quite a long time in the sort of gestation. And you know, I know Lee have hung on at Hilton Park for a long time, which is particularly decrepit, I believe now. So
it's extraordinarily decrepit. But frankly, you say hung on, but they've hung on overstates it. They've not been as secure as that. It's been on the cards. I mean, I can remember they called themselves Lee Centurions for a while, didn't they? In order to draw on the fact that the team was 100 years old. But frankly, they play like they're 100 years old. He says no. But the club was 100 years old. But frankly, it's always struggled since the Super League came in.
Yes.
I mean,
I think, in fact, that the football club took over the ground when the rugby club were in some trouble.
They did for a while.
They decamped from Horwich, and I think by selling off the land at Horwich, they managed a company, they set up a holding company to take over Hilton Park.
They always do, don't they?
Yes.
I've no idea. I don't know the answer to it. I just find the whole thing bizarre.
It is bizarre.
You end up with this idea of why should the local ratepayers, the council taxpayer, well, I pay council tax in Wigan, so why should I, a Warrington fan, pay council tax so that Lee can have a rugby club? Frankly, my answer is because we want more people to have rugby clubs, but it's a commercial enterprise. It's a commercial club. It's not a charity. It's a commercial enterprise. It's got to pay its way.
It has, but nevertheless, the level of charge does seem excessive.
Well, I don't know what they cost, but, you know, when you start getting stewards, you have to steward all of the ground, even if you only let 10 people in, don't you?
Yes, but I think the proposal was that they would only open a part of the ground.
And that would be the one?
Yes.
Anyway, what others think of it, they will say, but certainly it would be a terrible, terrible shame if we lost Lee Rugby Club with its history, wouldn't it?
It would. I mean, I don't know what their situation is. I mean, as you say, they're not well supported, but better than the football club. And I think it's the fact that the people of Lee don't really want a football club. They've no interest in football.
They don't have much interest in football, no. They're like Warrington.
Yeah.
Football doesn't matter to them at all.
No.
They're a rugby town, but not one that is paying enough to go. I mean, you describe the crowd as about 150. I think Lee Miners get more than that.
Well, they do. There's also. I mean, I've been over the years. I've been to Hilton Park a time or two, and there's a rugby league ground right next to Hilton Park.
Yeah, Lee Miners.
Is that Lee Miners?
I think it is.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, there'd be more people standing around the side there than actually going through the turnstiles at Hilton Park.
All right, well, good. Perhaps that's the answer then. Get them to go in.
Well, I know in the past the club have tried all sorts of things, you know, by putting on a football match and you paid one admission and then there was a rugby game immediately after, but nothing has worked. And it's just a shame.
The day may come when you've got to give up.
Yeah.
Good on you. Thank you very much indeed. If you're a Lee fan, one of the two, if you're a Lee fan, what's going on? Why is it so bad? Yeah, Kev says, on the question of heritage of rugby players to play for a country of their choice, did you see the game Ireland versus Tonga on Monday night in the World Cup? If any of the Irish team were not of Irish heritage, they surely played with the pride for their country of choice. I don't think I'm alone in saying it was one of the best games of recent times and a fantastic advertisement for the game of rugby league. As usual, both teams played with total honesty and respect for one another, unlike the other code, which is full of whingers and moaners. And just for the record, Tonga won 22 points to 20. That's from Kev in St Helens. And with a moniker like that in St Helens, clearly has no knowledge of rugby league at all. Yeah, right. It's just gone 20 to 2 on BBC Radio Manchester. Ewan Doak's got the headlines.
Greater Manchester's council leaders have approved changes to the TIF proposals. They've agreed that the question on the referendum will be, do you agree with the Transport Innovation Fund proposals, yes or no? Take That have added a third extra date to the two announced earlier today. They'll now be at Old Trafford Cricket Ground on June the 23rd, making 5 nights in Manchester. And Jonathan Ross has just announced he won't present the 2008 British Comedy Awards on ITV1. It follows his suspension from the BBC for 12 weeks. A dry and bright day, but feeling chilly with highs of 8 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
And the southbound M6 still looking at very slow right the way down from junction 22 at Newton Willows to junction 19 at Knutsford. Otherwise, things not looking too bad at all. The M60 seems to be running quite well. Things also moving fine around the centre of Manchester. Woolly Lane at Hollingworth still closed due to gas main work on the westbound side from Samuel Street to the A57 heading towards the M67. A diversion set up via Hollingworth and Mottram Moor. If you spot any other problems, do call us on 01612 244 4951. I'm David Powell.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Bill Rice.
Michael Carrick could make his first start for 7 weeks tomorrow when Manchester United take on Hull. Sir Alex Ferguson has a virtually fully fit squad to choose from, with only long-term absentees Owen Hargreaves and Paul Scholes unavailable. United go into the game 8 points behind the leaders Liverpool, but Carrick isn't unduly worried about that.
No gap's a good gap to have when you're chasing, but it's a long season. As long as we, get momentum up and the consistency in our play, which I think we have done in recent weeks. As we always say, it's every year, come Christmas when you're around there and in contention, that's when it really starts to count. So we'll see how it goes in the next month or two.
The United boss, Alex Ferguson, has also revealed plans to begin rotating his 3 goalkeepers. Mark Hughes has been explaining why he chose to play Micah Richards at left-back against Middlesbrough. The Manchester City manager decided not to select Javier Garrido, who played in the win over Stoke.
Javier is an attack-minded
left back, and I just felt away from home we've been a little bit too open, just as a consequence because of our positive play, and I just felt maybe it was an opportunity to see Mika in that position and give us an option when we're away from home, just to give us a little bit more solidity. It wasn't a reflection on how heavy he'd been playing, because he'd done well in the previous game.
Michael Ball is unavailable to fill the left-back slot. He's carrying an injury. Pablo Zabaleta is expected to return to the City starting lineup at Bolton on Sunday. He's been suspended for the last 3 games. Joe could start, having been on the bench at Middlesbrough, still recovering from tonsillitis, although Daniel Sturridge is likely to miss out. He's got an ankle injury. Winning their home games should see Stockport race up the League One table. That's according to midfielder Stephen Gleeson. County are unbeaten away from home in the league this season, but Gleeson thinks they need to win their games at Edgeley Park starting tomorrow against Carlisle.
Away from home, we've been performing very well, and I think it's just the one win at home at the moment. So I think if we start getting a few at home, the away form's been brilliant, so hopefully we can start moving up with the home results.
Bury go to Notts County, trying to halt a run of 3 straight defeats that's seen them slip down the League 2 table. Manager Alan Neil is convinced that they can get back to winning ways.
We should be winning games, or definitely not be losing. I think that's the thing, is to stop it, try to stop it now. And it's not like we don't work on things or talk about things. And I think they're all of a belief that it will change. And I'm a believer, if you work hard enough, it turns around. If you stop working hard, then you're in pretty big trouble.
Sir Alan Stanford says his 5-year contract with the ECB is not in peril. That's despite tomorrow's $20 million match being labelled a pantomime. Stanford has promised that concerns over the lighting and the slow pitches will be resolved for the match, which takes place between the England and West Indies All-Stars. Stanford also maintains that 2020 is the future. Australia closed the 3rd day of the 3rd test in India on 338 for 4. They still trail the home side's first innings total by 275 runs. Lancashire's head groundsman Peter Marron has decided to leave Old Trafford after 30 years. He's going at the end of the year to pursue other opportunities as a freelance groundsman. In rugby, Sale face Leicester in their final EDF Cup group game at Welford Road this evening. The Sharks are looking for a win. They haven't had one in the competition yet this season. At the Rugby League World Cup, Samoa have beaten Tonga by 20 points to 12. And in the all-new Manchester Sports tonight, Jack Dearden has a Rugby League World Cup special. His guests will include the new Oldham coach Tony Benson, plus the former Wigan and Great Britain halfback Mike Ford. You can get involved too by phone, text and email from 7. Andy Murray meets David Nalbandian today for a place in the semi-finals of the Paris Masters. Murray is still on course to become the first man ever to win 3 straight Masters Series titles.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station.
Wigan Athletic need a result at Fratton Park. We'll have full commentary of the Latics against Portsmouth tomorrow. That's in the all-new Manchester Sports from 1 o'clock.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Very good indeed. I like to bring you up to date with things. My little electronic wiry thingy has just told me that Jonathan Ross, Jonathan Ross has taken the decision to step down from presenting the 2008 British Comedy Awards on ITV. So that's ITV have announced that. But and do you know how much he got paid for that? One night's work. Do you know how much he got paid for that last year? £100,000. £100,000 for one night's work. I'd just do the one a year, wouldn't you? I'd just come in, pick a day. I'd work Christmas Day for that. Come in any time you like. Just pick a day. I'll do that day. Give us the £100,000. See you next year. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's gone very well, hasn't it? Wouldn't you? Crying out loud. Dave in Cheadle. Hi, mate.
Alan. Hi, Alan. How you doing?
I'm all right.
I don't know I'm going to get over it. I don't know I'll get over it, Jonathan Ross, for all that money. I'll never sleep.
Might keep me awake, keep him awake, counting it. He'll have plenty of time. Dear God, nobody's worth that for a night's work.
No, it's a joke.
Sinatra didn't get that. Crying out loud. So all he does is stand there and read off an autocue. He can't with a lisp. He reads off an idiot board with a lisp. He gets £100,000.
Exactly.
Good.
Exactly.
Money for old Rob.
Anyway,
Anyway, go on, yes.
Let's get down to business. Listen.
Okay.
With the council tax, we know with the property loss, the prices in property.
Yes.
My house has just, well, next door neighbour actually, which is a very similar house, has been revalued £25,000 less.
Yeah.
So that takes us into a lower banding.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't?
No.
But why is that? Tell me, please.
Because the bandings, the bandings aren't based on current market price.
Oh, right.
So that's a stuffer, isn't it?
Yes.
You see, I don't remember 2 years ago. I'll have a look through my diaries, but I don't remember you ringing up 2 years ago and saying, do you know the way prices are going up? I should be going into a higher band. Did you at all? I
It
see.
swings and roundabouts, it's called, isn't it?
No. It's not for you. It's not. It's just when it go down, I'll have it. When it goes up, don't tell it. Don't mention the rates. And that's the problem. So to avoid the sort of uppity downity effect, what they've done is they've said, well, how unusual. They've fixed it.
Yeah.
But they have fixed it as in keeping it in one place rather than fixed it as in fiddling matches. So
yeah.
So that's why it won't be changing anytime soon.
Well, I'm going to lose sleep tonight, really, double.
That's it, isn't
Jonathan Ross, and I've got the banding now. That's it.
You see, I'd do his job, but not if they made me wear that coat.
That's right, yeah.
Did you see that coat he had on?
Yes, I did, yeah.
He looked like...
Yeah.
He looked like Toad of Toad Hall. A kissogram, that's what he looked like, yeah. Being Toad, he looked like a kissogram for Toad. We made a gag between us. Last time two people made a gag together, all hell let loose. Let's hope we get away with this. But yeah, he did. He looked like a kissogram dressed as Toad of Toad Hall.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. I love it. Thank you very much, Dave.
Right, I'll
keep paying the rates.
See you later. Bye.
But he did, didn't he? Jonathan Rowe, well, he's got 3 months to hone his skills, and it can lead to big things, can kissogram. That's how Chris Evans started out. He did, in Warrington. He used to be a kissogram. He used to turn up as Whimperman or whatever. Well, I think he thought he was Superman, but he looked like he looked like a very badly wrapped pipe cleaner, because he's a bit long and thin, is Chris. Anyway, he started out as a kissogram. It could be a new career. And as I say, with that coat he had on the other day and that scarf and the gloves, Jonathan Ross, kissogram, Toad of Toad Hall.
John Thompson, he knows what he means.
You know Colleen Rooney? Kenneth Williams, isn't it?
Oh, yes. I've been shopping. All right, I've been shopping, yeah, buying more things. Oh.
John Thompson, he knows what he means.
Do you know what annoys me is that song, You've Lost That Loving Feeling? It segue into Grease, doesn't it? You've lost that love, now it's gone, ooh, dun, dun, dun.
Oh, yeah.
Dun, 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 dun,
Starts on 45. John Thompson's take on the world.
Good stuff. It's well done, great songs, and wholesome.
Tomorrow morning from 11 on BBC Radio Manchester.
Not to be missed. I'm here tomorrow as well. We got 6 till 7. The old tiggly digital recordy boxy wingy thing. Yeah, that's the technical term for it. The tiggly wiggly recordy boxy wingy thing. What's the matter with you? It's digital as well. So we've got that. So it's an hour of the best of what we've been doing all week. There's every possibility the two clowns will appear. It is hyphenated, yeah. The two clowns will appear again. So we got that. And then from 9... No, I'm not here then. I've gone then. No, from 7 till 8... I've never been good with numbers. From 7 till 8, it's me live-ish. Electrodes attached and all that. So that's me live-ish. Doing... Well, one thing we do, which I'm really looking forward to and always do, it's having a look at the week's main news story. I wonder what it'll be this week. Well, I'm flummoxed. I've no idea. Anyway, we'll have a look at the week's main news story, and we try to get to the bottom of it. You know, because normally you're just yelling out, "This is what's happened next. This is what's happened next. This is what's happened next." So we do this thing where we say, "Well, look, this is the big story of the week, and this is how it came about. This is what it led to. This is where it goes next, or whatever." So we do that, which I enjoy. I always enjoy that. It's good fun. I find out things I never knew before, and then of course, oh, look at that. And then we do the sort of day by day of the week, so the main stories of each day, and they can just show you what a fantastic and varied area our patch is, you and me in Manchester. And then after that, we have a cup of coffee, twixt 8 and 9. Well, I say one, we usually have 3, primarily because there's 3 of us. In the old days, it was one with a straw, but now we've got £1.5 million that we're not spending on Ross. We'll get one each. But it's we've got Dr. Sarah Saigal, who's a hospital doctor in Wigan. Now, if I remember, I'll ask her about transplants. Yeah, about organ donating. If I remember. But I probably won't. But if I don't, then send me a text and I will. And then we've got Keith Warrenden, who's the author of Underground Manchester. Now, when we say Underground Manchester, do we mean the sewers? I suspect not. Or do we mean underground in the sense of underground music? I was always surprised at underground music that it never had an echo on it. Bob-bum, thank you. Never mind. Look, we're struggling for comedians at the BBC. We've lost 2 of our best ones, apparently. Yeah. The reason I said... because I said I'd come back to it. The reason I said that I would ask the doctor tomorrow about organ transplant is because I said earlier when talking about organ transplant, just en passant, that I don't know whether I said it's always or usually, but either way I should have said usually. But people who die as a result of trauma are organ donors, usually. And Shirley, you just tuned in at the time, says via email, you mentioned that donor organs, the person has to have died a traumatised death. Well, as I carry a donor, leaving all my body parts, could you please enlighten me more on the reason for why the organ has to be traumatised? Well, the organ doesn't have to be traumatised, Shirley, but the gist is this. If you die a slow and lingering death of an illness, then perhaps your organs are not, if you like, readily available, because there's then got to be a post-mortem and all the rest of it into the death, so they need all the bits for that. If you're hit by a truck and you're on a life support, then the organs are fresh. And what they can do there is they can sort out where the heart's going, where the kidney's going and all of that, and they sort out where all the different donations are going. And they can do that whilst you're on the support machine. And then they can keep the organs working, alive if you like, but that's not a phrase that I'm comfortable with, but keep the organs working so that once it's decided, OK, him in London gets the heart, her in Newcastle and her in Warrington get a kidney apiece, the liver's going there, the lungs are going there, and they can take them all out at once, pack them accordingly and fly them to their respective places. If you'll pardon, the words that are available are always quite stark words, but all the bits are still fresh. Whereas if the person has had a long and lingering death, well, OK, you've got the complication of the post-mortem, and you've also got the complication of which organs are satisfactory. And people who are having for example, somebody dying slowly, as they do, of cancer. Well, first of all, their body's full of drugs, full to the ginnels of drugs, and all the organs are, if I can use this phrase, infected with those drugs. So that's not suitable. And the person dies, you don't have long after death to get the organs. Whereas if they're on a life support machine, as they often are after trauma, if they're on a life support machine, you've got effectively all the time in the world. So that's the reasoning. Now, how accurate I am with that, I think I'm comparatively accurate. If you know otherwise, then let's know on Monday. Let's talk about it on Monday and get me corrected for everybody's benefit. But that's my understanding of it. And as I say, if I remember, tomorrow I'll ask our guest who works in a hospital in Wigan. And then Shirley says in her email, and I fancy putting this as one sentence at the end when you're talking to me. She put, also, if you ever need public opinion regarding capital punishment, I actually witnessed a public execution by firing squad in 1970 in Kano in northern Nigeria. How can you put that in an email and leave me hanging? That's an unfortunate one, isn't it? Leave me hanging. Anyway, how can you put that in an email and then stop? Oh, dear heaven. Oh, and people are still trying to get the upper hand with the dot. I said there are no famous dots. And Vince in Connors Quay said, 24 hours late, Alan, but dot motorcycles. Well, we did that. We did that and discarded it. It's not a person, and it's not dot anyway. It's D-O-T. And the D stood for devoid, the O stood for of, and the T stood for trouble. D-O-T, devoid of trouble. My favourite email today, indeed I suspect my favourite email from the week, came from Brian, and it arrived at 1:17 p.m. today. It said, Alan, I've just heard about this Ross and Brand affair. Blimey, they kept that quiet. See you tomorrow on Monday. Ta-ra.
Join me, Mike Shaft, and find out how faith can make us less angry this Sunday from 7 on BBC Radio